Haunted Hollywood Hour, we thought we'd have a little astrological fun and find out our friend's astrology, then match our friend with a murderer who has the same sun sign as them, and then see if our friend can explain what it's like to share a zodiac sign with this person and maybe give insight into what this murderer is thinking as they're doing their terrible, terrible deed. In this case, we have Bel on the show today. Say hi, Bel.
Hello.
Bel is an Aries, and I'm going to tell her the story of Daniel Wozniak, who is also an Aries. Daniel Wozniak is a Long Beach actor who might be the stupidest murderer of all time. Bel is laughing right now. Feel free to laugh out loud. I'm going to tell Bel Daniel's story, and then I'm going to ask Bel to explain, why are you people like this? Aries, explain yourself. Because when I'm just starting to talk to Bel about what it's like being an Aries, I'm just like, my mind is blown. Because the way that Bel's mind works is so vastly different from my own. And also on the show today is Andrea. Say hi, Andrea.
Hello, hello. Here to give the Long Beach perspective. This is my favorite crime. That's dark. I don't mean it like that. Murder is bad. But this is my most favorite crime because it's local to me. However, I would like to say we do not claim this man. He didn't live in Long Beach when he did his crimes, nor was Long Beach Playhouse his primary playhouse. It was one of many. He lived in Orange County, which is on the other side of the orange curtain from me. But he, Bel, I'm sure you can speak to this as an Aries. He really overcomplicated things to try and get away with his crimes. And part of that included I'll just go into Long Beach to leave some things and do some part of my crime.
Yeah, he left body parts in Long Beach. Yeah. So Andrea is here to give us the Long Beach perspective on this tale.
And some personal connections to his body dumping ground.
Nice. Okay, ready? Let's go. Andrea, what is Long Beach, Orange County really like? Because as I was preparing for this, I watched the 2020 episode, and they describe it as an idyllic place by the sea, the quintessential Southern California town with palm trees, beach, pretty people, sun, beach, sand, etc.
All the beach.
So what's it really like?
So for folks who live here, first of all, Long Beach is its own world. It is LA County. It is the last stop of LA County before you, again, cross that orange curtain into Orange County. And it is a different world. Long Beach is amazing. I love it. I've lived here for almost 10 years. I don't know where else I would go. Long Beach is very chill, very diverse, kind of a slower pace than LA, but still, it's like LA's cousin, like a close cousin. But on one side, it's bordered by the Port and Wilmington and then Compton. And then on the other side, it's bordered by Orange County, starting with Seal Beach being the closest.
Wait, okay, so if Los Angeles is like the type A cousin who is like a success.
Right.
What Long Beach is like
definitely the type B, way more yeah, man, we like
the
that
stoner
stuff.
cousin.
Yeah.
A little bit like the one who lives in the trailer. Maybe is into art.
Yeah, very into art. It's definitely I feel, I'm from LA. I love LA, but image is a lot more important. It gets less and less important as you get into Long Beach, and then becomes important again as you go into Orange County, but in a very different way.
Orange County is the politician, the Republican politician who
it's very Republican, and a lot of the, especially women in Orange County, the look there is a lot of plastic surgery, a lot of filler, and athleisure, but expensive athleisure. You've crossed into Orange County when the athleisure is more expensive than the nice outfit you're wearing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the thing about Orange County as well is that it's huge, and it's very different. So the coastal parts, right? Like what you see on the OC, a show I do love. Shout out to the OC from 2000s. I watched that in college. That part of Orange County is, super beachy. Parts of it are kind of artsy, although very wealthy. everyone's blonde and rich, right? But then you get into the more inland areas where this guy lived with his fiance, who we'll talk about, and you're getting into more working class folks. Like there are parts of Orange County that have like very high Latino populations, very, very high Asian populations. If you want good pho, like you got to go to Garden Grove. It's the best. So there's areas like Garden Grove, Westminster, Buena Park, Anaheim, where Disneyland is, like that are completely different from the beachier parts of Orange County. As you go further south, it gets even more insane. Then you're in San Clemente and like, wow, those are some rich people. So all of that to say, like every pocket is very different. And Long Beach is really different from Orange County. And where this guy is from is a different part of Orange County than what you see on TV. And I would not call the part he's from beachy and idyllic. I would call it just more like a normal city. But, you know, on 2020, they're not going to say it that way.
Okay. So let's get into the story. Julie Kabushi was born on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 1987. She's an Aquarius. So none of us here are Aquariuses or have any Aquarius energy, but we know Aquariuses. Yeah. What are Aquarius?
Yeah, my mom is an Aquarius. She listens to this. Hi, Mom. Aquariuses are a little nuts.
Yeah, you know, there's all sorts of different types of Aquariuses.
Yeah. But I think too, it doesn't surprise me, and again, sort of jumping ahead a little bit, it doesn't surprise me that an Aquarius like Julie would find a sort of introverted loner friend and be available to them. That's not shocking.
Yeah. She enjoys dancing and she likes to perform. She's very extroverted. Everyone likes her. At Orange Coast Community College, she's studying fashion and meets a guy named Sam Hare. He was in the military. He was in Afghanistan and he has some PTSD and nightmares. And he's described as like a teddy bear. He's the life of the party as well. And so Bel, as an Aries, is this Sam Hare someone you might get along with? Or are you thinking like this is someone I can use for his money?
So that's an interesting So love party is usually somebody I would be able to get along with. Definitely, I don't see myself being best friends or something with somebody like that, but definitely attracted to that kind of energy.
And Julie tutors Sam, helps him get an A. According to Sam's parents, they were never romantically involved. They hang out and are good friends. There's a lot of partying at Sam's apartment complex in Costa Mesa. And
I'm gonna add to that if you are familiar at all, again, with those inland parts of Orange County, it is all apartment complexes.
Yeah.
Like mid-level apartment complexes with pools. It's the whole thing. You've seen it. That's it.
And there at that apartment complex, actor Daniel Wozniak and Rachel Buffett, who's a former Disney princess, live in that apartment complex. And I'll just add the Disney perspective. I worked at Disneyland when I was in grad school in Orange County in the costume department. So I had lots of interactions with Disney princesses. And they're both theater actors. And I think, well, Disney, if you're a Disney princess, if you're an actor, you're all good, fun-loving, nice people.
But there's a certain amount of ego involved.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's a certain amount of like, okay, that's how you are. That's fine. And so they're theater actors. On May 21st, 2010, Julie, which is a Friday, Julie meets up with her brother, Taka, and she's going to be in his wedding. He gives her a tiara to wear, and that tiara was given to him by his fiance. During the dinner, she gets text messages from Sam, and Sam is desperate to talk to her. One of the texts says, "No sex. I need to talk. Don't tell anyone." So the fact that like she wasn't freaked out by the no sex thing makes me think, okay, maybe they had a previous sexual relationship. We'll see.
I interpret that to mean, because I think I'm putting myself in her shoes, right? If I am friends with someone who I know has PTSD, is suffering, and they send me something weird and like out of character, it wouldn't necessarily wouldn't make me think anything of it, because I'd be like, oh, well, that's a weird thing for me to say, but I'm going to put that aside because I know you're my friend and that you have issues that I've helped you with in the past. Yeah. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah. So The next day, Saturday, her mom sees her bedroom door is open. She's not home. Her mom texts her and gets no response. She calls. It doesn't even go to voicemail. Her mom is freaking out at this point, desperate to find her. Sam's family, on the other hand, is also worried. He was supposed to go to his parents' house in Anaheim Hills for the weekend, and they don't hear from him. His father calls his phone, but his phone is off. And Sam never turns off his phone. So Sam's father heads to Sam's place to see what's going on. And he has a key, so he lets himself into Sam's apartment. And in the bedroom, there's a woman's body with a large amount of blood. Sam's father calls 911 and the police get there. What they see is a clean bachelor apartment. On the counter, there's an invitation to Daniel Wozniak and Rachel Buffett's wedding. And in the bedroom with the body, there's an unused knife. The victim is partially on the bed, partially kneeling on the floor. Her pants are pulled down. One gunshot wound is in the head. She's wearing a tiara. Her purse is in the kitchen. And in the purse, amongst her belongings, they find her ID. And it's Julie Kabushi. Her phone rings while the investigators are there, and they are able to start reading her texts. And they start kind of putting together a picture of what possibly went on. And they see that Sam was texting that he's helping his downstairs neighbor, Dan Wozniak, who's getting married but can't afford it. And so a quick question, Bel, as an Aries, would you ever get married, but you can't afford it?
So I have met enough Aries who are in debt to say that is an Aries trait. That's another one I had to train myself out of. I had to train myself. I'll set myself out of spending money before I had it.
Yeah. And I can vouch, I have known Aries who they constantly spending money and they are unemployed and they're doing expensive things and like going to restaurants and like going shopping, but they're unemployed. And I'm like, what? How? And they're putting it on credit cards. And I'm like, I cannot imagine doing that. I have a job and I'm like terrified of spending money on anything. So what's the impulse there? Is there like, that's a problem for future me? I don't know.
I think there's definitely that it's not immediately before you, so you don't have to think about it. And something will work out eventually, like somehow magic will happen and you'll get away. Like it won't be a problem later, kind of thing.
Wow. So fascinating. Okay. So yeah, Dan is getting married, but can't afford it. Sam is helping him. And that Friday, he's like, in the text messages, he says, I'm going to help Dan, and then I'm going to visit my folks for the weekend. Then the tone on the text later that night shifts drastically. It seems like Sam is in trouble. He asks, can you come over tonight at midnight alone? He's very upset. He needs to talk. The come over at midnight thing freaks me out. Maybe the Aquarius. You know what I've noticed about Aquariuses? They're very naive. If someone texts me that they want me to come over at midnight, I would be like, I'll talk to you in the morning.
Yeah, I feel like it's like there's a sort of, it's not inherent trust. It's more like just, there's sort of this with some Aquariuses that I know of, like, I don't really perceive human interaction the way other people do. It's sort of more distant. So like the threats aren't apparent, you know? And like, again, if I can understand wanting to be there for your friend. Again, Julie, everything we know about her, an incredibly kind person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd be like, I'll call you at midnight. We can FaceTime. I'm not showing up.
Yeah. So they see those text messages. They're kind of getting a picture in their head of what happened. They investigate the body. And on the body, Julie has writing on the back of her shirt that says in like Sharpie, all yours, fuck you. Initial theories are that Sam had been drinking, he sexually assaulted her, then wound up killing her, then fled. Sam's vehicle and passport are missing, so that's evidence that maybe he's on the run somewhere. Sam has actually been on trial for murder before, and he's been acquitted. Here's an excerpt from a 2002 LA Times article that says Sam Hare and Esteban Alonso are alleged to have lured their friend Byron Benito to a deserted business park on January 16th, saying they wanted to smoke marijuana with him. But when they arrived, Benito was attacked by more than a dozen gang members, all from the Santa Clarita Valley, who were allegedly seeking revenge for a killing hours earlier. The deputy Los Angeles County District Attorney, James Garrison, said Benito was beaten with fists and crowbars and stabbed 33 times, and he died of a stab wound to the lung. Now, Sam was alleged to have lured Byron there, but he was acquitted. And that's a thing that's all painting a picture in the police's heads. So we're back now in 2010. The police put out an APB saying Sam is armed and dangerous. Investigators talked to everyone Sam knows, including Dan Wozniak and Rachel Buffett. Dan says he was with Sam before he went missing. He says he was also with another unknown individual wearing a black hat. Rachel tells investigators the same thing, that Sam had come down to their apartment with a guy she'd never seen before wearing a hat. Sam's dad is doing his own investigation. Meanwhile, he knows his son is not a murderer. Sam had $62,000 in savings and he's 27. And I just have to say, good for you, Sam. That is impressive.
We just got to sell your body to the military. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just sell your body and soul to military, and it's amazing how much money you can make.
Yeah. But so on one hand, military, yikes. On the other hand, good job for saving that money.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been squandered.
Yeah.
That's more money than I've ever had. So, good job.
His father has access to his bank account and notices there's activity on his account from a bank in Long Beach, which is about 30 minutes north of Costa Mesa. Sam's dad starts looking for Sam himself. He's hanging around the ATM for hours. Then he gets an alert that ATM card is being used right now at a pizza place. Sam's dad goes there and starts looking for Sam's car. Police are also monitoring. They have access to surveillance cameras. They are able to see the person withdrawing the money using Sam's ATM card. And they see a very young man on the surveillance video. He's wearing a hoodie and a hat. He's clearly trying to conceal himself. And the pizza place was actually, whoever was there wasn't actually in the pizza place. They had ordered a pizza and they had it delivered to a certain address in Long Beach. So the cops just show up to that pizza delivery address in Long Beach, and the cops surround the place. And the person who comes out of the house is a 17-year-old named Wesley Freelick. And he's the guy on the ATM photos.
The idiocy of youth. Just so completely stupid, but a child.
I would say you have a credit card for someone who isn't you, and you're going to order a pizza and get it delivered to your address.
And you're like, oh, well, I'm wearing a hoodie, so no one will figure it out.
This is the perfect disguise.
So I have a lot of questions for Wesley.
And he's just a kid.
Yeah, he's a 17-year-old. I have done some dumb things as a 17-year-old.
Haven't we all?
Everything before this minute, right at this moment, have been just a long series of dumb things in my life.
Including this moment.
Including this moment, probably, yeah. And so they find out that so the investigators find out that the person who gave Sam the card was Dan Wozniak. And he knows Dan through acting. And
not only is he a dumb teen, he is a theater teen.
Yeah.
So Dan was kind of a mentor to Wesley. That's how they became friends. And I'm like, why does a 26-year-old want to be friends with a 17-year-old? Bel, as an Aries, have you ever had friends who were 10 years younger than you in that, like, they were minors?
Not really, but I could see that definitely him, again, that idea of being like the superiority complex almost, and going, I can be a mentor. Because at 26, you can't mentor shit. Like if you have any kind of introspection, you're a child yourself, just because you're legally an adult.
But you like the idea of people looking up to you.
Yeah. And whether it's looking up to you or helping, either way, the idea that you're able to mentor somebody who you are that young and you think, yes, I can mentor somebody, especially a child. That's definitely a very Aries trait. Again, very self-assured.
You know what I'm thinking? Like some Aries I know, they had these like clingers on, like these little followers who are like their little flying monkeys. And there's this horse lady at the barn who always manages to rope in like some little helper for her. And she just like exploits who her new like helper of the year is. And she just like exploits them until they're like finally like, I can't deal with you anymore. And so that might be what he's going here. He's like, who can I use to, get my way?
Yeah, it's definitely one of those power responsibility things. So as a person, again, self-assured, usually people are attracted to that kind of thing. Like it's people respond to it, and you can use it for good. You can try to help people. You can try to support people, etc. Or you can use it for evil, and you can basically, exploit people, overuse them, overwork them, use them for your own needs, and then discard them, kind of thing. So, and then that makes sense because again, when you get them young, it's easier for them to look up to you, even if you're obviously not as great as you think that you are.
The idea that some people think that they are just worthy of respect just because they have been alive a little bit longer. So how did he manipulate poor little 17-year-old Wes? This is what he told Wes. He said that Sam owes a bunch of money. And Wes must not have read the papers about like APB. Everyone is looking for Sam. Maybe Sam doesn't watch the news. I don't know. But
well, and to be fair, Costa Mesa and Long Beach are far enough apart. I mean, not mileage wise, but like culturally, like honestly, that orange curtain is so real. And I don't even think it necessarily would have gotten onto his radar. Like there's enough happening within local Long Beach news. It probably wouldn't have even penetrated. Also, what teen is paying attention to anything?
Yeah, that's true. So he says Sam owes a bunch of money and he needs Wes to withdraw a bunch of money from Sam's account so that they can give it to the bail bonds place. And here's the thing, Dan says to Wes, you have to go to the ATM and wearing a hat and glasses and disguise yourself. And I'm asking you to help. And Dan actually brings Wes like a prop. He brings Wes like a folder of paperwork. He's like, see, here's all this paperwork that confirms that this is all legit. And Wes is like, okay, I want to know Wes's sign now. Wes has actually never even used an ATM before. So when he actually goes to the ATM, he just like takes out a bunch of money, like $400 chunks at a time, because he just hits the $400 thing. Dan's like, what took you so long? And Wes is like, I've never used an ATM before.
Bless him. What a small.
Now that Wes has conveyed all this to the police, Dan Wozniak is officially a person of interest. As an actor, Dan is described as decent, pretty good for Orange County theater. He gets cast in a lot of shows. I have seen clips of Dan acting. I don't know. It's kind of not great.
Yeah. Well, I will take the opportunity here to say, I know that he did some acting at Long Beach Playhouse, but it was not his home theater. So we don't claim him. And I have been to Long Beach Playhouse. I've seen incredible productions there with very talented actors and cast. So I guess the standards have gone up since 2010. It
kind of seemed like the type of play that like your friends and family would go to see because you're in it. And I don't
like high school, like a high school production, but slightly older.
I don't know if the general public would probably go see your plays. And so we are dragging Dan's acting ability. Bel, if anyone ever criticizes you and Aries, how do you react to being called out for being a talentless hack?
Well, generally, I mean, I just think everybody's wrong. Yeah, I could see him as an Aries definitely not responding well to that kind of thing.
You know, we are dragging Aries, but I do have to say Pedro Pascal is an Aries.
Yes.
So there's some good examples of Aries out there.
I'm going to go ahead and put myself in the good example in the good category. Just saying.
An Aries
I'm not hurt anybody. I don't exploit people. Sorry, Aries, if you're listening to this and going, why is she saying these things?
Okay, I'm a Libra here dragging Aries, but Libras have to account for our crimes as well. Hitler was a Libra, right? So doesn't get much worse than that. David Koresh was a Libra rising like me. So we have crimes. Now we'll have to find some criminal. Andrea, you're Sagittarius.
Yeah, so I'm obviously going to defend Aries as a fellow fire sign. I love an Aries. And honestly, I feel like we need to see this Daniel's whole chart to really get an understanding, which we can't get because,
we don't know his birth time, but I did pull up based on his birthday.
But from what we do know, what a stupid Aries.
What a dumbass. And also, it's good that a murderer is a dumbass because that means they're going to get convicted and be less likely to murder more people. But let's continue with the story. So Daniel Wozniak is described as gregarious, outgoing. He's a fun guy. He's the life of a party. His fiancée, Rachel, is opposite in personality. She's standoffish and quiet. She's actually was homeschooled and she kind of comes off as rude. Maybe she's a little on the spectrum because people say that her social interactions are a little strange, but her friends are like, that's because she's homeschooled. Dan has a hard time keeping a job. He's described as lazy and he has no ambition other than acting. And I must say, of the Aries that I know, they have also had trouble keeping a job because why? Well, why might an Aries have trouble keeping a job?
Again, when you want to be constantly entertained, want to be maybe thinking that you're better than the job you happen to be in, impulsive. So if something happens and you don't like it, you're less likely to think about the consequences if you quit in your job or, not taking the job. You just kind of go, again, it's a problem for tomorrow me and something will happen. They'll fix this. So that impulsivity, I can definitely see that coming into this for sure.
Well, I think there's an element of ego too. And again, not across all Aries, but I think for sun signs in general, like, your Aries, Leo, Sag, I feel like there's just an element of ego of like, well, I shouldn't have to do that if it's not my passion, if it's not my dream. Mm-hmm. I deserve to only work on what I want to work on, which is my passion for shitty theater.
Community theater.
Shitty community theater.
And you know what? Also going back to Rachel, it also makes sense for a long time relationship to go with somebody that's opposite because when you have fire signs together, it can be fun, but it rarely lasts because it's very explosive. It can kind of be, so it's a quick flash in the pan usually, but it doesn't go. The way I heard it described once was it's like two magicians trying to impress each other. It's like one goes, look, a rabbit, and the other goes, look, like a puppy, and they just keep going bigger and bigger, and that can happen with fire signs. So him finding somebody that's opposite of him makes a lot of sense to me.
You can't see my face, people listening, but my husband is also Sagittarius. We are two Sagittariuses married to each other, going on 9 years together. And it is often a fight to the death every day.
But in my experience, it seems like fire sign men, a lot of men, like to monologue. They just talk at you and they talk at you and they want an audience. So if there's kind of like passive little Cancer sign, Rachel, who is homeschooled, she doesn't have a lot of social experience and she'll just sit there and be his audience. And I imagine him just monologuing all day and she's just sitting there passively taking it in.
And the actor thing.
Or completely zoning out.
Yeah.
Not hearing anything he's saying.
Yeah, just zoning out and not being like me and being like, you talk so much. And then they get mad.
Yeah.
Do you ever shut up? Okay, so this guy, Dan, life of the party, he's in a lot of debt because he can't keep a job. He's 2 months behind on his rent. He's facing eviction. He's borrowing money from friends. Who are these friends borrowing money to some other friend? Don't loan your money to your friends. Don't do it. If they are in debt, not your problem. Tell them to go to a bank. Don't loan money to your friends ever. He needs, you can buy them a coffee, take them out to lunch. Don't loan him money. So he needs thousands to finance his wedding. Again, why are you having an expensive wedding? Why are you having a wedding if you don't have a job?
I was going to say, I think that goes back to a bad combination to a certain extent with a water and a fire with Rachel as a Cancer and Daniel as an Aries, because I think he he is going off of the assumption that like everything's going to work out in my favor. And, you know, for whatever reason, some water signs can be really like a little bit dreamy, right? And so you have a dreamer who's saying, well, I want these things. It's my vision. And then you have an Aries who's saying like, well, it'll work out because I just think that it will because I deserve it. And now you have two people who are spiraling towards a shitty wedding at the worst. And obviously much worse than it actually happened.
And even this local jazz singer, who's a complete stranger to him, loans him money, like $7,000. Wow. I'm so annoyed with this man. The police call Dan to come in for questioning about Sam. And Dan says, the police call him and Dan says he's unavailable because he's at his bachelor party. What? And so the police are like, no, you can't. No, we're asking you to come in right now. And then they go looking for him and they just start like, look, okay, where would a bachelor party be? And they find like the local sushi place that's still open. And lo and behold, that's where Dan's having his bachelor party. So the police come in and arrest him at his bachelor party, which I do love a moment when a dumbass gets made a fool of himself. And that's a good consequences of your actions moment. When Dan sees the cops arrive, of course, his face turns pale. He knows he's in trouble. And he says, I'm going to tell you everything. I'm sick of covering for Sam. He says that he and Sam had a plan to withdraw funds from Sam's ATM and Sam would report his account stolen. So it was like a debit fraud thing. The police keep asking him, where is Sam? And Dan keeps on saying, I don't know. But he does admit to convincing Wes to take out the ATM money. But why would Sam pay Dan to steal his own money? None of this is making sense. Dan keeps on changing little details every time he's pressed. Finally, at 8:30 in the morning, Dan says on Saturday, Sam shows up at his door saying, I did something bad. There's a body in my apartment. I shot someone. And when you watch this on the interrogation tapes, it's ridiculous. You're watching the video and you're like, this man is like acting like he's in an improv class. And it's not even like a good improv class. It's like my note for him would be like, okay, I need you to don't be an actor right now. Just be a human. But he's just like totally putting on a performance. Dan says that Sam threatened him, that Sam said, I know where you live.
I know where you live. You live in the same apartment complex. What do you mean I know where you live? Yeah, I see you every day in the hallway.
So here's another thing. He's also inserting, again, it's just stupidity beyond stupidity, because he's also inserting himself more into the story than he could. So if you wanted to keep it simple, right? If you wanted to go, okay, they caught me trying to take the money out. The part where he's pretending that Sam wants him to help him with this money situation. Okay, leave it at that. But then he goes further and he goes, oh, and by the way, he also got me involved in this murder thing. Now we've switched over to, well, why didn't you tell the police? How are you at your bachelor's party? Just chilling if you saw somebody get killed or know that somebody
right? Why are you at your bachelor party if you just helped a guy get away with murder? Like, what's going on? What
exactly? So he had to insert himself. He had to make himself important. He had to make himself more part of the thing, the victim, this is also a man, it seems like, has watched entirely too much television, like way too much.
But also he's like, Sam asked me to help him get away, so I took him to the mall. Why would you say that you took him to the mall? Why wouldn't you say I took him down to Mexico? Why?
You know, to be fair, I feel like life really revolves around the big malls in Orange County. So maybe that's just what he went with. You know, South Coast Plaza is like its own city over there.
Dan's like, I know the perfect place to get away, to evade the cops. The mall. The place with like 1,000 security cameras in every square foot of the damn place. So at this point, Dan finally admits to making up the mystery person with the hat. And the police are like, okay, cool. Now we just want to make sure that we want to exclude you. So we're going to take a little DNA swab. And this is when Dan gets really, really nervous. And they get the DNA swab. And then Dan's like, well, you might find my DNA in his apartment because I use the bathroom. And Then the police are like, oh, okay. And then the police come back and lie to him. And they say they found his DNA above or on Julie's body. And he says he finally admits to being in the apartment and seeing the body. And he says, and this is a really dumb thing too. He says, I saw 2 bullet holes in her skull. And I personally haven't seen a person shot in the head, but I can imagine that a person with long brown hair who's been shot twice in the head, I don't know if you could count how many bullet holes are in their head. So him saying he saw 2 bullet holes in her head pings them a little bit. And they press him with more questions about this. And he gets really aggravated and angry. And this is also a part in the interrogation tapes that you guys got to see, because this is definitely novice intro to acting, intro to improv class level performance. One of the investigators at this point says, tell us the truth, because you're not that good of an actor. And I love that. And Bel, tell us, how does an Aries feel when they are called on their shit?
Again, I can't even imagine the level of anger of feeling like he was wronged. Like, this is not how life is supposed to go for him. What do they know? Like, I could see that just taking it to a new level of true anger, of just, yeah.
Do Aries ever feel humiliation or shame?
See, again, not speaking about, for me, it's rare because, again, it's like I just go with it's like you're just wrong. Do you see what I'm saying on that side?
So it's like you're not even gaslighting people when you say like you're wrong. It's like you truly believe that you are not wrong.
And also, let me, by the way, for everybody else, I'm like a super Aries. I have like Aries in so much of my chart that it's kind of scary. So
I wish I could inject some of that, because basically, like, I feel shame even when I'm right, but I'm like, what if I conveyed it in the wrong way? What if there's constantly the what if I hurt their feelings? Like, I can even think of like a recent case where someone was clearly lying to me and I didn't want to like call them out because I didn't want them to feel bad. And then I still think about it. I feel like embarrassed about it. Like, I'm embarrassed for them. I want your Aries.
The layers of shame go deep.
Yeah. It's also, again, that idea, it's respecting authority becomes a little trickier when you always think that you're right. Seeing other people as being somehow superior in some way is kind of, it rarely happens, which makes it really easy for, and again, these are some good traits in that. For example, you don't get easily intimidated, that kind of thing. But I could definitely see him not being as concerned about the fact that he's being interrogated by police as he should be.
So finally, Dan stops talking, which he should have done a long time ago. By the way, guys, if you're ever questioned by the police, ask, are you detaining me? Don't talk to them. I mean, if they're detaining you, then say, I need to speak to my lawyer and I'm not going to.
And never say a word ever again.
Never say a word. Never say a word ever again. And the phone at the police station, this is really important. They record that shit.
Yes.
Everything you say on that phone can be used against you. So you better be very careful about what you say.
And the amount of people who, get caught out doing crimes because they don't think they're being listened to is a lot. And I'm like, I don't know how you didn't know that.
And I don't know why I'm saying this like as if I'm like telling this guy how to get away with murder, because I'm like really glad that
listen, at that point it was never going to happen. The plan was so flawed from the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, for other folks, if you do, we support crime here at this podcast.
We support good crime.
We support good crime.
Yeah. Not murder of most people is a bad crime.
I was going to say most people. But if you're doing a good crime, don't talk on the phones. Don't say a word.
Yeah. I mean, again, have you not seen enough television? It's like you either watch too much and you think you can get away with it with a TV plot, or you haven't watched enough and you don't know that you should not talk.
So Dan finally stops talking. He does call Rachel, and he learns that Rachel has just learned that Dan's brother Tim, who is described on 2020 as not very sophisticated, has evidence related to the murder. And when Rachel says the thing about Tim turning the evidence over to detectives, Dan says, "Then I'm doomed." He says this on the phone. Okay. And then Rachel's like, "I'm going to tell the police everything that I know." And Dan is like, "Oh God, oh God, oh God." And Dan's like, "No, don't. That can't be found." So they get all that. That's no good for him. But also, how much does Rachel know? I'm curious to know. There's a whole podcast about this I haven't listened to yet. But
yeah, I will say a lot of the media I've seen about this case is old, because this crime is fairly old. It's 15 years at this point. I feel like a lot of the media I've consumed about it has sort of put some blame on her of like, oh, she was actually the mastermind. Like, she was pushing him to do this.
She was, I don't know, and he was 26.
Also, don't do that. But so I don't know how much of that sort of slant on the case is based on just like hating women, and how much of that is based on reality, because also he's so stupid he might have done whatever she said. There's a lot of unknowns about Rachel, but ultimately I think, to your point, barring concrete evidence that she was the mastermind, she was very young and very inexperienced,
and she was homeschooled. She was 20 years old.
Bless her.
He's way older than her.
He's about to get married at 20. That's never a good sign.
No.
She is on this phone call conversation. She's like, "I'm going to tell them what I know." And he's like, "No, babe, no, I have to tell the truth of what I did. And I think you know what I did. It's bad. Imagine the worst." And that's what I did. And then Dan goes to detectives and says, "I'm crazy and I did it. I killed Julie. I killed Sam." And he says that he killed Sam for the money. Again, he killed Sam so that he could use his money to go on a honeymoon and get married. Another part of it was the reason he was so excited about this cruise honeymoon was because him and Rachel would be married. And even though Rachel is only 20, because she's married, she would be able to drink on the cruise. Like, this is a huge part of why he was so excited about this.
God, bleh, bleh. So gross, so predatory.
And he killed 2 people for this.
Yikes.
And he says he decapitated Sam. His head and his hands have been, he uses the word decapitated incorrectly. Decapitated refers only to the head, but he's like, "I decapitated the hands and his arm that had the tattoo," which
so he's also stupid about just vocabulary,
which is annoying.
Has been failed by the education system, is all I'm saying.
But it is, from an Aries perspective, it's interesting that decapitation just refers to cutting everything, because Aries rules the head, that part. So decapitation is a big Aries phrase. And he explains that Sam's body is at the military base in the theater, and he has no emotion as he's admitting this. And he says that what happened is that he asked Sam to move some boxes. Dan then shot him in the back of the head, but didn't kill him. And after the first shot, Sam was like, "Oh gosh, I've been shot. I need help." And then Dan takes time to reload and shoot him again. And then that night, Dan goes to Fullerton and acts in a play after he just shot his friend.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's we don't know anything about Sam, and what we do know is questionable on some ends, but obviously was able to find a good friend in Julie. So, we don't know anything about Sam really, but it doesn't matter. Like, that's a horrible way to go, that you're helping. You think you're doing a favor for a weird friend that you have in your apartment complex, your weird theater friend, and to be betrayed like that, and then, have your body, I mean, it's just a body, but still, like, you have it desecrated like that. Just, it's really cold, really cold.
And Bel, can you just experience something horrible and then just put it behind you and go on and do your fun thing?
Well, interesting. So again, I have a thing about not hurting people and things. I'm I'm a freaking vegan. So
yay, vegan power. High five.
So I think this is definitely where we get into like this man was obviously a psychopath because that is a psychopathic tendency of just almost being able to dissociate and segment your mind into I just think that I'm going on with my life.
And so after killing his friend, he then texts, so he goes to the play. He then texts Julie, pretending to be Sam, telling her to come over. And so then he kills Julie and stages the crime scene. And this is so bizarre because it's like, why? I guess you're then framing Sam, who's already dead, for murder. So, and then you're just going to hide Sam's body so you can create this story that Sam murdered Julie and then fled.
Well, that's exactly it, right? It's creating the story, and it's so overly dramatic and unnecessarily so in the way that he like writes the note on her back and like she's wearing the tiara. Like, what the fuck do you think this is? You know, he's so caught up in this vision of like, oh my God, I'm so smart. I'm going to essentially create like a shitty airport thriller in real life, and no one's going to think that that's stupid or weird, and I'm definitely not going to get caught. Like, it makes me insane.
And then on Saturday morning, and keep in mind, this is when Julie's mom is like, Julie wasn't home last night. And Sam's parents are like, why is Sam not coming home for the weekend? Dan goes back to the military base theater, cuts off Sam's head, hands, and arm with the tattoo, and he throws them in a park.
And I will jump in now and say that park is in Long Beach. It is the El Dorado Nature Reserve. I have been there many times. It's very beautiful. If you're ever in the area, I would really recommend it. Lovely nature trails. There's a bunch of turtles that obviously don't belong there because turtles are not native to Long Beach, but that's fine. A bunch of turtles live there. There are lots of really lovely native plants. But a fun fact about El Dorado Nature Reserve is that is where my husband and I got engaged. And I did already know that the body parts had been left there at the time.
A full circle.
Yeah. So it's a place that a lot of history, both personal and otherwise. For me, also great dog park, archery, if you're into archery. So yeah, a really, really lovely place in the middle of the city. And boo to the murderer for thinking that was a good place to leave a body.
And these weren't even buried.
Well, and that's the other thing about the park. Like, it is big and it is a nature reserve, but it's not like it's the middle of the desert where you would never stumble upon the parts. Like, it's not that big.
So what's the terrain like? Is it like brush? Is it like tree?
Yeah, it's really flat. I mean, you know, it's a great place to go for like a nature walk and not a hike because it's flat. It's literally just like, you know, chaparral, like this, you know, the native landscape of California is what's there. So it's not like a super dense forest or like, you know, lots of hiding places. It's just like a flat land with shrubs. So yeah, not very smart.
You know, if I was going to hide a body or body parts, I would go, and Griffith Park has a lot of body parts there that get hidden, but I would go to Angeles National Forest because that's desolate. It's remote. Not many people go there. You can go there in the middle of nowhere and you can drop some body parts and they probably get eaten by coyotes or vultures before anyone would ever find them. Just weird that someone would just drop in a park in the middle of the city and think.
Because he's lazy. Ultimately, he's lazy. And it is, you know, it's close. He already is probably familiar with it, having, you know, been to Long Beach for some of the theater stuff he's doing out here. And he's like, close enough, which is like, let me put all the effort into creating my story with the tiara and the this and the that with Julie and poor, sweet, kind, wonderful Julie.
I know.
But when it comes to the actual disposal of the body, meh, that park will do.
And Dan's brother, Tim, he has a role in this. He's described as unsophisticated. Dan told Tim to get rid of some stuff. It was a backpack that had basically a bunch of evidence, like shell casings in it. And Tim just takes the backpack and throws it over the fence at his parents' house. And it had Sam's financial information in it too. Ultimately, with all this evidence, the jury takes 1 hour to find Dan guilty of double murder, recommending the death penalty. In 2016, he's sentenced to death before Governor Newsom declared a moratorium on capital punishment. And the death penalty is very problematic. You definitely want to teach these murders a lesson or whatever, but ultimately, it disproportionately affects people of color and marginalized people and people who don't have access to really good lawyers. So I'm a fan of the death penalty not being a thing that happens in California. But this guy, this dumbass,
well, he should stick around to live with his dumbassery until his natural end.
In 2018, Rachel Buffett was sentenced to 32 months minus time served for accessory to murder, and she was released in 2019. And there's a website called Daniel Wozniak is my friend.com. And it has updates on Dan, and Dan writes in like letters. So you can read some letters that have been written by Dan. And I found it interesting just to like read Dan's, what goes on in that dumbass little tiny brain of his. And
still performing, a theater kid forever.
As you would expect, it's extremely lacks any sort of introspection or insight. It's like he's trying to convince people of things.
Still, 15 years later.
Yeah. As of February 2024, Dan is incarcerated at California State Prison in Vacaville. And in Vacaville, he's employed as a tutor, a group leader, and a hospice worker, to name a few of his many jobs behind bars. Dan is part of a pilot program to house death row inmates in facilities where they can get work instead of spending 23 hours a day in a cell. Sam Hare's parents have expressed frustration, understandably, that Daniel isn't more uncomfortable or dead. And
yeah, but at the same time, you know, if he is helping other people, including other inmates, I think that's a better use of our tax dollars than just having him sit there. And I mean, either way, he's not getting his freedom, and he still has to live with the fact that he's so incredibly dumb.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I would hope that there are psychologists, that he can get therapy, that he can figure out why he is the way that he is. I mean, I know in Norway they do prison rehabilitation things, and I think that's probably better than just like locking people away and punishing them. Like, give people a chance to become better. That's good. But I am extremely judgy about this dude.
Yeah. And I mean, and of course, I really feel for Sam's family, you know, to have a child in the military and to survive that. And then to come back and get, you know, murdered by a theater kid in a playhouse is like, are you for real? Is this really what happened? Like that's
he's just trying to help.
So painful.
Help his weird little theater friend.
Right. Yeah.
Hearing this whole story now, Bel, as an Aries, what's just your perspective on it? Are there any things that Dan does that you can go like, oh, relatable?
So I definitely see a lot of Aries traits that that probably led to the things he did. So definitely little thought for consequences, impulsivity, thinking that things will just work out. Being dramatic is also a very Aries trait. Things are always very big in our heads, even little things tend to be. So I could definitely see that. And of course, I mean, he's also young and obviously dumb, which didn't help. Because I remember, I mean, I'm coming 20 years later and going, well, I know better now, but the things I did in my 20s, I didn't murder anybody. But I did some very dumb things.
Not that you'd admit on this podcast.
I know better than that. But so, and this is not an Aries thing, but that's another thing that I think would play into this. And so, Andrea, you said he lived in a place that's like a normal city, but it's nearby a place where like a lot of people are very rich. It's very nice. It's very posh, very, you know.
Yeah, and it's very looks focused and appearing wealthy, appearing successful. Yeah. That is, you know, he's right up in there.
Yeah. So, and I've known people like that have lived in places nearby where they're friends or know people who are very, very, very wealthy, or at least appear to be very, very, very wealthy. And I think that does give you a warped idea of like what you can and cannot do financially, if that makes sense. So whereas some of us would go, hey, having this huge wedding on a cruise is something that you would have to work to be able to afford. Somebody who sees people throw money around might think like, this is normal. This is like the
everyone's entitled to go on a cruise for their honeymoon.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I think that might have also really fed into some of the tendency towards bad ideas and bad decisions that an Aries would normally make.
Wow. And Andrea, what's your reaction from the Long Beach perspective?
I mean, I think Belle really hit it on the head with saying like and again, I'm gonna say Long Beach and where he lived in Orange County are worlds apart despite being right next to each other. I'm not surprised that as someone who lived in Orange County that he would use Long Beach as a place to get this kid to aid and abet his crimes unknowingly and to dump, Sam's body parts, because I know a lot of people who live in Orange County, even in the less, the not bougie parts, look down on Long Beach of, oh, that's a shitty place, oh, it's dirty, we don't go to the beaches there, there's actual diversity there, how could they? The two don't mix a lot, and again, I've lived here a long time. I'm from LA originally, but I worked in Orange County for years. So and you went to school in Orange County, as well.
And I worked in Orange County. I worked in
That's right, because you went to Disneyland. So
yeah, Disneyland. I worked in a nonprofit too so I experienced the less wealthy areas.
Right. But to Belle's point, it is right. It is there where you are seeing just out of reach this extreme wealth or the presentation of wealth, the presentation of success, always looking super put together, looking a certain way. And I can see how that would have added in, especially with, I think that I deserve to have the wedding of my dreams. And, I deserve to go on this cruise for my honeymoon. It doesn't matter that I'm a theater actor who has no real pathway to success or financial gain. I deserve these things, and therefore I'm going to get them. And I think living somewhere so close to LA where everybody's aspiring to be an actor, right? And then living in Orange County where wealth and success is everything. It only added to the impulsivity that he already felt as an Aries.
Yeah. Definitely.
Very cool. I'll show you guys his chart really quick. I don't know his exact time of birth, but he has this interesting thing where basically all his planets have to report back to Mars because Mars is the most dignified planet in the chart. So we would say Mars is his final dispositor. He's got his Sun in Aries, his Mercury in Aries, his Mars is in Scorpio, which is the domicile of Aries. His Saturn is also in Scorpio. His moon is in Sagittarius. His Jupiter is in Capricorn, where it's debilitated. So usually when someone's Jupiter is debilitated, that's supposed to be a good planet, but it's not doing good. But basically all these planets have to report back to Mars because Mars is the most dignified planet. And Mars is the warrior. It's the cutter. Cutting is an important signification of Mars. Killing, fighting, very aggressive planet. And interestingly, he does have a very dignified Venus because his Venus is in Pisces where it's exalted. But that Venus still has to report back to Mars because Jupiter, which rules Pisces, is in Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is in Mars' sign. So that Venus still has to report back to Mars. So yeah, it's funny. I know a couple people who have Mars and Saturn co-present in Scorpio, and they're kind of mean.
They're kind of mean.
It's a fire sign.
Yeah.
Exacerbated by violence and warlike tendencies and things like that. So it's adding fuel to already out of control fire.
Yeah. But then again, I have a stellium of planets in Libra, so I kind of think everyone's kind of mean. Stop being mean. Not you guys, though. You guys you're nice. But maybe if we hung out together for too long, I'd be like, stop being mean to me.
Get Belle and I together, two fire signs. They're probably going to be like tornado.
Yeah. It's just a lot. It's just a lot.
It just sounds exhausting, honestly. It sounds very tiring. Do you ever just want to be like, you know what? Being an Aries is hard. I want to take a nap.
I do sleep a lot. Maybe that's what it is. I'm just so exhausted.
But then the question is to me, being embarrassed and self-doubty all the time sounds exhausting. Don't you want to just have confidence, Carly? I'm like, what? I don't even know what that means. Good time. So any final thoughts before we wrap things up on this dude?
I just want to say, if you are inclined to do theater, that's great. I love that for you. I'm notably not a theater person. I appreciate those that are, but don't also do murder. you're not cut out for it. Don't do it. It's not for you.
Yes, I'm an Aries and a theater kid, so I definitely could. And yeah, just don't murder people. Don't do that.
Unless they deserve it.
Yeah, no, yeah, we'll give it a.
We can think of maybe 2 people.
Yeah, I've got a couple in mind, perhaps. But again, go against your theater tendencies to overcomplicate it.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Don't go to McDonald's afterwards.
Yeah.
Don't try and write a 3-part Shakespearean tragedy around this murder that you think you're going to get away with. Don't do that.
Keep it simple, stupid. I guess we're going with that. Also, don't talk to the police. Don't ever talk to the police in any way, shape, or form.
Don't use the phones.
The phones are monitored, people, please.
Oh, well, I hope Dan is suffering. That's what I'm.
And that's the take home. We hope Dan is suffering.
Yeah, he killed 2 really nice people, and that's really shitty of him. So that's it for this week's Haunted Hollywood Hour. Follow us on Instagram at Haunted Hollywood Hour, all one word. If you want to send us an email if you want to be on the show, if you have a recommendation for an episode, send us an email to hauntedhollywoodhour@gmail.com. And if you want other people to find the show, that would be really, really helpful for us. I think we're up to like 140 subscribers to this podcast on various platforms. So that's very heartening. Tell other people about it so that we can grow this little community of sickos. And that's it for this week's episode. Until next time. Bye.
Bye.